For an example of how you would want to implement the DRTA in your own classroom, I suggest that you use this strategy with their reading textbook stories, being that those can be harder for some students to kind of comprehend and to actually get the meaning of the story and even answer the comprehension questions at the end of the story. One DRTA lesson that I have done in the past was with a fourth grade reading textbook, and the story was called The Garden of Happiness by Erica Tamar. Um, the story was about a girl who wanted to plant something in her city's garden, but there were no plots left, but she did find a little crack of soil that she could plant a seed in. So she ended up planting a sunflower seed that one of her neighbors actually gave to her. She ends up going to this little plot of soil, plants the sunflower seed, and all of a sudden this amazing, humongous sunflower grows. But once, of course, the season starts to change, the sunflower starts to die. And the girl Marisol tries to fix the sunflower whatever way she can. She tries to save it, water it, overwater it, but nothing can save it. But being that the entire neighborhood saw that she was so upset about this, they ended up painting a mural across the street from the garden, and they ended up painting a mural of her sunflower and a bunch of different sunflowers to go along with it, which ended up brightening up her day. So, when I implemented this strategy, I implemented it with one fourth grade student. Now, again, the DRTA can be used with whole group, it can be used with a small group, preferably, or even you could do it one on one with a student who is struggling with comprehension. But for my lesson, I did a first beginning activity that would kind of spark his prior knowledge. So I had him think about if he could plant his own garden, what would he want to plant in it? So I had him first write a paragraph about his garden and what he would put into it. I had him list some types of vegetables or some flowers that he would want to plant into it. And then after I had him write his paragraph, I had him put it off to the side a little bit. So once he had that paragraph finished and written, I did not check for any types of grammatical errors, capitalization. It was his work. I wanted to see how he was with his proper use of grammar and his proper use of writing mechanics. But again, that's up to you as a teacher. You can check it right away, or you could wait until the final product is done and then have him go back and revise it. But again, you might want to help with some spelling words, some unfamiliar words. Again, just the regular scaffolding or small adaptations you might need to make in your classroom. Sometimes you may even need to scribe for your student, which that's okay. You might need to write for them. You can provide even maybe some pictures of the gardens, hang them up in your classroom, or even if you have a Promethean board, put a picture of as your background screen as a garden and introduce it to your students. Say, this is a picture of a garden. What do you notice what's in the garden? And then they could go through all the different flowers or the colors of the flowers, or if there's vegetables or fruits or something in it, they could go through and see all the different fruits and vegetables they have in the garden. And again, you can even partner up students together if you're doing a small group or whole group. They could work on a paragraph together. They could do brainstorming activities together and then write their own paragraphs. And again, you just want to observe them so that you could see in case they're struggling with the prior knowledge of maybe they have never seen a garden. That's when you would want to jump in as the teacher and kind of help them and give them a little push onto what they should know. But of course, after your pre-reading activity, you then want to go into the textbook, which you as the educator would have to go through ahead of time and provide stopping points for the text and where they would stop and answer a Bloom's taxonomy level question. And again, you want to go through, see which ones fit the best that you think as an educator. I provided multiple stopping points because I understood that this child really struggles with comprehension. But again, Noah doesn't struggle that much with comprehension. That's his main weakness that I've seen, but not as much as this child that I've had. This child was in learning support for reading and for math. But again, Noah is a gifted child. His only little weakness is comprehension, so you would not need to provide as many stopping points that I have, but again, these are just some examples that you could have in front of you. So with the lesson that I had for my student when I did the DRTA, I had various multiple on one page. I might have had some on maybe one on one page. It all depends on what you as the educator feel is fit for your students at that time with that certain story that you want to implement it with. And again, I put every single type of question from every single level of Bloom's taxonomy within this piece of text, so I could really understand, like, are they understanding it? Are they able to like apply prior knowledge to the text that they have learned before? Are they able to remember something from the text and like able to verbalize it and maybe even get deeper within it? But again, in case some of the questions might be too difficult for some, and there will be some that might be too difficult for some to answer, but you really want to see if they could get it, you can maybe just give them a little starter like sentence to their question, like, I wonder, like, what was it that so and so did for this? But how do you think that made them feel? And then you would want them to maybe give you a 1 or 2 word answer so that they could at least understand that they understand what you are saying. And again, make sure that you want to highlight the questions that you want your students to answer. If I were doing this in the classroom, and if I were you as the educator and you have your chalkboard behind you, I would write the stopping point. I would write page, whatever page number it's on, and then in quotations, just the little part of the sentence that they should be stopping at. So once they finish that stopping point, I've seen teachers do, give me a thumbs up when you're there, or put your bookmark in your book when you're there so I know you're ready, or even just simply like look up at me and smile if it's a younger group. But whatever you use in your classroom, whatever you think your students will get their attention, and that you understand that they will be ready to answer the question when everyone's on the same page. But again, write the stopping point on there for them so that they know where to go and where to stop at, instead of having them raise their hand 2,500 times asking you, what's the stopping point again? Where am I supposed to be at? Because then they're going to be worried about that and not worried about comprehending what the text is really about. So then again, you want to go through all of your different stopping points depending on how much you might want, how many stopping points you might want for your students. If you only have maybe one question from each level of Bloom's taxonomy, that's okay too. Would I recommend doing a little bit more? Yeah, I would recommend doing a little bit more, because the more questions they answer and the more questions that are brought to them means that the more they are going to be able to comprehend it. They're going to get deeper within the text, and they're going to understand what it's actually about. And again, scaffold them as much as you can. Don't scaffold them too much, because you still want them to see if they can comprehend the story without your help. You want to have them just think about the higher level questions that you'll be providing for them. So again, with my lesson, what I did after we did the reading session, I then had him pick up that paragraph that I had him write about what he would put in his own garden. And after the reading, I had him bring it back, and I said, read your sentence to me. I had him read his sentence right back to me. He stumbled on some words because he realized he didn't write exactly what he thought he did, so he's making some self-corrections. I had him read it back to me, and then once he finished, made his corrections on his paragraph, I said, okay, providing him with whatever art materials that he wanted to use. Had markers, crayons, colored pencils, even some paper and some glue and some scissors. I said, okay, you read me that sentence, that paragraph on your garden. I want you to create it, as in make your own mural for your garden, because again, the story was about a girl upset because her garden was dying, but they made a beautiful mural for her. So I had him create his own little mural based on his garden. And again, that's just tying in the whole sense of what happened in the story. What if he was Marisol, and what if he was upset? What would he want someone to do, or what would make him happy? And try to distract him from what was happening with his garden. But again, there are so many different ways that you could even implement other strategies in the DRTA. Even for like a continuation of that story, you could break up the story into like a graphic organizer and even use like some pre-made sentence strips you could use, or you could even arrange your own students to plant their own garden outside of your classroom. And again, there's just endless things that you can do with the DRTA. It all depends on what you as a teacher are comfortable doing and what your students are capable of doing. You can even break up the text in multiple days. You don't need to read it all in one shot, because if your students aren't getting it, then that means we need to go back and revise it and maybe add some more questions, or if maybe they don't want to do the questions, they don't really see, you don't see it helping them, provide less questions, but still you want to get them to think of the higher level of thinking. And especially with Noah, I believe that this will definitely help him with his comprehension. He's going to be able to answer all the different questions he might be confused on, He may be able to ask more questions that he thinks of as he's reading. But completely, I believe that this strategy will help him with his comprehension. And we will definitely monitor it as the year progresses to see if any of his comprehension needs do improve. So again, we will keep a steady monitor on that. But thank you so much for meeting with me today. Thank you.